All right, it is knife time. Once again here, coming to you from the lovely Junker Forge on a beautiful Sunday afternoon, the last day of summer. As today is the last day of summer. Can you believe that tomorrow fall starts? All right, we're gonna get into a couple Ontario knives today that are Marla says hi, that are two of the most important knives in my knife collection. As per, it's kind of like a sentimental Sunday over here. Thinking about good stuff. All right, this here is a Ontario Knife Company Old Hickory Butcher. Looky there. We got that marking right there. It's Ontario. Look, it's got the cool little scimitar. Yeah. And the Old Hickory. They started making these in 1923. This one is probably from around that time, some of the first ones. This was the only fixed blade knife I ever saw my father use. I believe this was his grandmother's before it was his, and then he got his hands on it when he was a young man, and this was it. This was the only fixed blade knife my father owned, besides his fillet knife, and that's the only other fixed blade I ever saw him lay a hand on, like to use, actually use. This was it. It still has a very keen edge, as you can see there. The sun came out just to show that pretty little edge. 1095 steel, slab of hickory, some brass rivets holding that on. Old, cool, good old 1095. Still the best steel in the world, man. Tough, strong, easy to sharpen, holds a good edge. I know those two things don't really go hand in hand all the time, but for the real knife guys out there, you know that 1095 is the business for the most part. This was it. My dad, he would field dress out a giant mule deer with his little bitty case slip joint, or his buck slip joint. He had two. And skin it, everything else, little bitty razor sharp case knife. And then, you know, put the deer in the game cloth or bag or whatever. When we get home, hang it up in the garage, and he'd grab this. And I've seen my dad butcher out more big old giant mule deer and some medium mule deer with this than I can remember. It was like a family affair. He'd be butchering it out with this, and the family, we'd be together, and cousins would come over, and sometimes some friends. We'd be packaging up meat and have a good time, and the good old days, getting together, hanging out. I've seen him cut rope with this, car upholstery with this, cardboard. I've seen him use this for notching doors for hinges. Anytime he needed to put a point on a stick, we'd go arrowhead looking when I was a kid. He'd put a point on a stick with this. The only sheath I ever saw this has was the National Geographic. He'd pop it in a National Geographic and fold the National Geographic in half and stick it in his back pocket to where we were going. This was it, man. Once First Blood came out, boy, he would make fun of me, because I had, like, when I was like 8 or 9 years old, I bought one of those Parker survival knives. I'll do a video on it one of these days, and he'd say, "You and your Rambo knife." Anybody had a knife that was bigger than that, it was their Rambo knife. He just, yeah, make fun of me all the time for my knives. But this was it. That was my father's fixed blade. Every Thanksgiving turkey, Christmas ham, you name it. Any knife work my dad ever did that required something larger than a little bitty case slip joint, this fit the bill. This type of knife is what the original type Bowie knife was basically like, you know, but no clip point, it was just straight. It was a big old butcher knife, a couple 3 inches longer than that. Seriously, you know, millions of dudes running around the wilderness with knives just like this in a time where your rifle had one shot and didn't know if your powder was wet. You didn't know if your hatchet was sharp, so you had to have something like this on you. You know what I'm saying? And that did all the work that a knife needs to do. I've seen it. Yeah, that's a real important piece of my collection. My mom gave it to me a few years ago. She's like, honey, do you want your dad's old knife? And I was like, well, hell yeah, I do. And I cleaned up the edge one time. It was still razor sharp when she had to me, but you know, been sitting around a while, so I ran it over my thing real quick. And there it is. All right, so for a whole year of my life, the only knife I had was a Timber Rattler Outlaw Bowie. They're giant. The blade's like 15 inches long. Huge, huge, big, giant. No, it's not that long, but the blade's like big. They're a big knife. They're like 16 inches overall, something like that. It's in my Rambo video I did about the missing scenes from Rambo. That was it. Those used to be $18.99 on the Bezos place on the Amazons. And there was a point in time in life where I didn't have no knives and I wanted a big old knife, because when I was reading old Sonny Barger's book back in the day, I was reading this part where him and the boys got pulled over in Texas, and the old Texas sheriff says, how come you and all your boys have such big knives? He says, oh, because we're felons, we can't have big guns like you. So when I could get my hands on a knife again, I got me that big old Bowie knife, and I carried that everywhere I went for a year. And then September of 2010, I was riding around my old $300 Jap chopper I'd built. He was on his brand new Harley, and we went by the shop he worked at. He goes, here, man, you're always carrying that big old giant sword around. Here, I want you to have this. He gave this to me brand new in the box. This is an Ontario knife company, RAT 5. The 5 stands for a 5-inch blade, and the RAT part is for Randall Adventure Training. And for those of you who are learning, this Randall is not Bo Randall of leather stag handle Model 1 fighting knife fame. This is a different Randall guy, and he is into the more survival world stuff. And so he teamed up with Ontario Knives in the mid-2000s and started the Randall Adventure Training Knives, RAT. For me, that stands for Radical Adventure Time, because I've had some radical adventures with this knife. My buddy gave me this knife in September of 2010, and it was like the badassest knife I'd ever had at that point in my life that I didn't have anymore had been a Strider. And this was like somebody handed me a Strider. I mean, you know, because that was what was like I looked up to in the knife world. You know, I was like, holy, he handed me that. I'm like, are you sure, dude? He's like, no, it's for you, man. I got it for you. I was like, dude, thank you. And it's like somebody gave me the keys to a brand new car or something, man. Like, I've been carrying an $18 big old giant Pakistani foot-made Bowie everywhere I went and trying to use it for knife stuff. Like, it's ridiculous. Somebody gives you something like this. This was real light tan, real still super fuzzy micarta. As you can tell, it is dark from all my oily hands and hot dog grease and tri-tip grease, everything else. He gave me this, and this thing was strapped on my hip like a Chernobyl pony for over 3 years after that. I folded the dangler down, and in a later time I carried it so it was up higher. This thing flopped around my hip everywhere I went for 3.5 years at least. This thing has saved the day. It's done all the knife things. I've gone camping with this, fishing, lots of fishing, lots of camping, tons of motorcycle riding. This is traipsed around over 100,000 miles, more than that, hell. This, my buddy came by my house one winter night a few months after I got this. This is a test to the strength of these guys. And he pulled up in front of the house to grab a movie he'd left at my house or some crap. And he left his wife's car running in front of my house, and he locked the door. This badass little brand new Jetta. And he was like, man, I can't afford a locksmith. It was weekend, middle of the night, you know, late at night. I said, hold up, man. I took the antenna, off my old bucket van I had. I grabbed this thing and I gently put it between the roof and the door frame of that Jetta, and I went, and I bent that shit out so he could take that antenna, and ka-chunk, unlocked the door, and I saved the day. The Randall RAT 5 Adventure Training, Ontario, saved the day. This Ontario knife saved the day. Oh boy, this is cut up cake. This knife has been with me in moments where I had to reach into my deepest core and find the highest levels of intestinal fortitude that I've ever had to find in my life. This knife was with me. It's been a good adventure buddy. This thing nowadays sits on a little shelf in my multicultural corner, as it is a sacred object now. Like a truly sacred object. When my best buddy straps me on my Harley Scylla after I leave this realm and they set me on fire, I expect this to be tossed in the pyre with me. Yeah, this thing here, if knives could talk. It's had some fun adventures, and you know, just to get in the, I don't know, I'm sure you could find these somewhere out there, maybe eBay or whatever, but don't ever question the quality of one of these. That skull crusher, that pommel there, so good, so stout, will do its job for show. It's got a nice full flat grind. This will go baton through stuff. Slice good. I used to, like I said, camping. I had this little cowboy grill, like on Red Dead Redemption. You know, his little grill. I have one of those I carry in my backpack. I put a slab of tri-tip on that thing out in the wilderness with this thing, man. I let it cook up. I sliced up so many good slices of meat with this and whittled. I love whittling. Anyway, I'm rambling. This has been more of a story time than a knife time, but it's a stories about knives. My buddy, one of the things that got me thinking about this is the buddy on here that watches, Suburban Ninja EDC guy. He was talking about how, like, the true working man for centuries has been using stuff like this. It don't take no $1,000 knife, man. You find yourself a good, decent price knife and you take care of it, and it'll take care of you. All right? I'm gonna shut up and go play with the goats and enjoy this beautiful last day of summer. And I hope all of you are as well. Watch your top knot.